Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the In Off the Post podcast. Yes, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the 14th episode of the In Off the Post podcast. I hope you're excited. I know we both are. Who's we? Well, I'm here with Ross Dawson as usual.
Hello, everyone. Long time no see. We have good reason for that, though.
We've got some explaining to do, I know. Before we do any of that, right, first of all, we did record an episode 14 the week after the awards. I promise you that we did. It didn't really flow correctly. We weren't happy with it, and we were incredibly busy. We'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. So I'm going to quickly run off now as fast as I can. The awards winners, you probably have them, they are on our Twitter blog. Manager of the year went to Pep Guardiola. The best club team of the year went joint to Monaco and Real Madrid. Best transfer was Mo Salah to Liverpool. Best goal was Wayne Rooney versus West Ham. Biggest flop and was kind of a joint between Andre Silva and AC Milan. Best breakout star was Mbappe. Jesse Lingard walked away with our most improved player of the year.
Very interesting to see, if I might add.
Absolutely. And I think that was it. If we're missing any, you can always double check our Twitter account for that. Right, so should we get on to where we've been for the last 3 weeks, Ross? Because I do feel a bit bad.
Yeah, we do have good reason for this, purely for the fact that we genuinely have had no time to work on a podcast. I mean, recording it's fine. You can just sit down for an hour and record a podcast. But I mean, we've literally had no time to edit together, upload a podcast, because as we do study BA journalism at the University of South Wales, our course is accredited by the it's the Broadcast Journalism Training Council, should I say? And a part of earning that accreditation is to take part in 3 weeks worth of what we call news days. So we have been in university Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock till probably 6 o'clock at times. So it's been a really hefty schedule.
You can imagine on the weekends, then you just want to relax. You don't really want to do anything else.
Plus I've still been working Saturdays, so we've literally had no time to record a podcast. I mean, we've all got other commitments as well. So, it's just we wouldn't have had a life. Not that we did during the 3 weeks, but we are back now. Our university schedule is incredibly kind to us this term, so expect more content than ever. We've got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. Should we get onto that?
Forward to it.
Should we get onto those plans right now? Should we make the announcement?
Oh, no, I think we shouldn't. No, of course we should. We've been wanting to do this for a while. As I've talked about it on the show before, and on other things, on Twitter and whatnot. When we started this show, we wanted it to be sort of a slow progression. We wanted to start off with a show and make sure that we can get the show format down to a T. Then we wanted to branch out into more other content as well. And part of that, Ross, I'll let you announce it. Go on.
Yeah, so anyone who's been a long time follower of In Off the Post, or may have followed In Off the Post before the podcast, will know that it was an award-winning football blog, should we say. We're going to announce the relaunch of the In Off the Post blog. We will be recruiting some writers. So if any aspiring football writers or anyone looking to get into football writing, feel free to contact us. You know where to find us, at IOTP blog on Twitter. We'll do all the plugins and stuff at the end of the show, but we won't get too much into it. All we're going to say is that we're going to turn it into a hub for opinionated football writers to express their opinions with as few strings attached as possible.
And also to make sure that people have got a place to get their work out there. Well, I know that when I started writing when I was 16, which feels like a long time ago now, but it was only 3 years ago. I'm still young. Initially, it was always hard trying to get your articles out there, and there are websites that you can just, throw an article to them and they'll just put it up there and give it no promotion, and you've got to put down to that. No, we don't want that. We want people to genuinely have a place to put their stuff and have a platform as well. So I really, really hope that some of you people listening right now can get involved with the new endeavor that In Off the Post and the In Off the Post network, I guess we've got to call it now, will go into. should we get into the show? Because it is a podcast at the end of the day. So we'll start with the FA Cup roundup with Ross.
So yeah, big weekend of FA Cup football. A lot of FA Cup magic on display this weekend, and a couple of upsets. We'll start off with Sheffield Wednesday, who beat Reading 3-1 at home, and then the mighty Yeovil, the lowest ranked team who will remain in the competition. So hats off to them, losing at home 4-0 to Man United. That game obviously saw the debut of Alexis Sanchez, who won man of the match from that game. Then Peterborough losing at home 5-1 to Leicester City. Claude Puel doing an absolute madness at Leicester at the moment. They're up to 7th in the league, but we'll discuss that a little bit later on. Huddersfield being held to a 1-1 draw by Birmingham City at the John Smith Stadium. And then Hull City beating Nottingham Forest 2-1. A little bit of an upset. Nottingham Forest did beat Arsenal 4-2 to go through to the 4th round of the FA Cup. So a little bit of an upset there. Everyone thought that Nottingham Forest would get a little bit more out of that game. And then Middlesbrough losing at home 1-0 to Brighton. Brighton sneaking away with that, by going through to the 5th round. Millwall drawing 2-2 to Rochdale at home. MK Dons losing 1-0 at home to Coventry City. Notts County holding Swansea City to a 1-1 draw, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Sheffield United beating Preston North End 1-0 at home. Southampton beating Watford at home 1-0. Wigan beating West Ham 2-0 at home. We'll talk about that game as well. But we'll start off today's discussion, or this week's discussion, on the FA Cup roundup with Newport County, the mighty Newport County, holding the equally as mighty Tottenham Hotspur to a 1-1 draw at Rodney Parade. An absolutely fantastic result for Newport County. Big game, big result for that club. They force a replay at Wembley, so a lot of money is going to be coming into the club. But should we talk about the game a little bit?
Yeah, big up Newport County. I was watching the game. I'll start off by saying, as I usually have to when we talk about Newport, I am a Cardiff fan, but I've got no animosity against Newport. I don't really understand why it's been done. And I was watching the game, I was rooting for them, I was hoping that they did well, and if it wasn't for a really avoidable goal, shall we say, from, well, at the moment, probably the world's best striker, Harry Kane, then they'd be through to the 5th round of the FA Cup. But a replay would probably be the best result for them.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was a really disappointing goal to concede, but it was a fantastic goal from Tottenham's point of view. It was a nice little flick from Heung-min Son onto Harry Kane, who just tucked it away. But it was really frustrating for Newport because they were in the lead for quite a long time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they did go into the first half 1-0 up, I think. Yeah. So for the rest of the game, they were just holding out. They played a really tactical game of football. They were just defending and then hoofing the ball up to the other half, which is what Cardiff should have done against Man City.
I got to be honest though, I thought that they were unlucky not to win the game. There was one chance where Musa Sissoko nearly put the ball into his own net. Michel Vorm didn't really know much about that, so fair play. They were putting the pressure on Spurs, and Spurs did look rattled for at least 40-30 minutes of the game. I really hope now that they can go to Wembley and try and get something positive, even if it is a loss. I hope they do show the rest of the footballing world that they are there to stay, because they're doing really well in League 2 at the moment.
Yeah, Newport fans and the club itself will be happy with the Wembley tie. A lot of money is going to come into the club after that game, and a lot of money has already come into the club. They obviously put up 2 extra stands that increased the capacity at Rodney Parade to 10,000, and they got a sold out crowd out of that. So it's been really good, really good seeing Newport County and their success in the FA Cup.
Absolutely. Right, we'll move on swiftly to another Welsh team in the league. We'll gloss over this a little bit quickly. Swansea City, I would argue, not deserving to go to a replay after they struggled to get past Notts County, different county, and drawing 1-1 there. They were also 1-0 down, managed to scrape a goal back by the end of it. Wilfred Boney had a really good chance in the first half. No player within 3 or 4 yards of him. A decent cross into the middle. a kind of chance that you'd expect him to score, and certainly the Wilfred Boney of old before he moved to Man City would have scored, and instead decided to hit it straight towards the gaping arms of the goalkeeper. I'm sure he was very thankful for that. What I want to know is, though, from your perspective, Ross, what has happened to Wilfred Boney?
I mean, in the league, they haven't been doing too bad. I think their last games were a draw and a 1-0 win against Liverpool. So in terms of that, they're not doing too bad. But I think their options in attack are really dire. I mean, it was a heavily rotated squad that Carlos Carvalhal fielded against Notts County, and I don't think Swansea fans were shocked by that. He's publicly stated his desire and that their priority is Premier League survival. So I don't think many Swansea fans are going to be disappointed with that result, and the fact that it is going to a replay. I don't think they care much about the FA Cup at the moment. I think,
in fairness, and you are right that Carlos Carvalhal has said that he is prioritising the league, as he should. But he did start Boney, Tammy Abraham, Tom Carroll, Renato Sanchez, who came off injured, Leroy Fur. You know, there's quite a few big names, or people you'd argue were big names in that Swansea team, surrounded by, and Alfie Mawson as well, surrounded by, sure, maybe their second team. Never heard of Connor Roberts. So he was playing at right wing back. But it's so confusing to me why Carlos Carvalhal has decided to field such a weak team. Because the way I look at it is, if he puts out a full strength team, he goes round to the next round of the Cup pretty easily, or at least he should. Premier League team playing against a League One team, and maybe you can inject a little bit of confidence into that team. I know they beat Liverpool, so they should be on top of the world, but why not just give them a run out, make it almost like a friendly, just give them some minutes. There's plenty of players in that team that need minutes. Renato Sanchez is one of them. Get some confidence back and just have a go at the league and use the Cup as kind of a side angle. Not saying go all the way, I'm not saying that at all. Just try and use it as a platform to get a bit of confidence on the side. Games that don't really matter. That's the way I see it, at least.
No, yeah, that's a fair point. Well made. In terms of other games, let's talk a little bit about Leicester and their thrashing of Peterborough away to Peterborough. Leicester City are doing fantastic at the moment. They were obviously, well, like most clubs at the moment who are at the sort of top 10 level, they had a disappointing start to the campaign, but Leicester City have now finally dethroned the mighty Burnley in 7th place, and Leicester are now looking upwards again of trying to crack European football, which is quite good. It's impressive to see, considering that where they have been amongst like Craig Shakespeare's appointment and stuff like that, and the type of year that Leicester City have had.
Their personnel hasn't really changed too much since they lifted the Premier League trophy, and there's no reason to think why they couldn't, not challenge for the Premier League again. Don't get me wrong, but try and qualify for, say, the Europa League. I said when Claude Puel came in for Craig Shakespeare that he will turn them around. I think I was proven right. He is a very, very good manager who was hard done by at Southampton, and he's got them playing really, really well again. There is a few rumours that could derail that. I'm sure we'll talk about that in the transfer section later on.
And the rest of the FA Cup games, Liverpool losing 3-2 at home to West Brom. Very interesting. I think West Brom are currently in 19th place, I want to say. I believe they're obviously not in the most impressive form so far, like at this point in the season, but they're hoping that they can take the momentum of that cup game and lead it into the Premier League success. Chelsea beating Newcastle United 3-0 at home as well. And then the big talking point of the weekend, and a big talking point between us yesterday and Sunday evening as well, because we were both at this game, but Cardiff City losing at home 2-0 to Manchester City. Shall we discuss this?
This is great for me, because we don't get to talk about Cardiff that much on the podcast. We're very rarely one of the biggest talking points of the week. And yeah, maybe with the exception of VAR, this was the most contested match of the year, of the round. Definitely. Should we talk about the football first rather than the big debate point?
Yes. Sadly, I think Cardiff were really poor. Just to put it bluntly.
Yeah,
There was
and look, I don't think that we can be too ashamed, because there are teams that are better than us who have lost 6 or 7-0 to Man City this season. I do believe that they are the best team in the world, and they put out a very, very good team.
They did
against a championship
put out
club.
more or less their starting side, with the exception of Aguero, who obviously came off the bench because Sane went off, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the first goal was really disappointing to concede, because there was such a big build-up of it. Gundogan was down injured. It was right in front of me, that goal, and all the Cardiff fans around me in the Canton stand were just really frustrated with Gundogan, and then it just all like ended up in Kevin De Bruyne just slotting it under the wall into the bottom corner. Just the biggest anticlimax ever, but it was really clever.
It was a good,
but
it was a good goal. I couldn't. I was sat in my usual seat in the Ninian. I couldn't, complain. I put my hands up. I was like, that's a good goal. And it fooled everyone. In fact, I'm pretty sure that everyone in the stadium, other than Kevin De Bruyne, didn't know that was going to happen. So the way I see it, though, is that was in like the 7th or 8th minute. Before that, Cardiff were really, really up for it. There was a chance in the 3rd minute. Nathaniel Mendez-Lang managed to break free, put a really poor ball, but Callum Patterson was waiting in there, and I would have bet quite a bit that he would have put that away if it was a good ball. And if we had gone 1-0 up in the 3rd minute, this is a totally different game. I really do think that. I'm not saying we would have won, but it's definitely a different game.
The worst thing that could have happened to Cardiff happened. The best case scenario for Cardiff. The best case scenario for Cardiff was going into half-time at 0-0, getting Pep's men frustrated, and then just dragging the game out and hopefully nicking a winner. But conceding early was the worst thing that could have happened to Cardiff that game.
Absolutely. The second goal that didn't count, shall we say, the first obviously being Junior Hoylett's off the line, Claudio Bravo.
That was a fantastic strike. Everyone was bouncing after that shot, and I really thought it was going to go in.
Yeah, and sometimes all you need is a bit of luck here and there, and it could get the crowd going. Claudio Bravo spilled the ball. It went on the line. Everyone in the ground thought that it had gone in. It didn't. And goal line technology proved that. But then the second goal that was disallowed. I feel after when I watched that goal go in from the counter attack, it went straight across me, and I had a perfect angle for it to go in. There was nothing wrong with it. I could tell that in the stadium, and I have no idea why the referee decided the linesman decided that was offside.
I think the verdict was that I think it was Leroy Sane or something obstructed the view of the keeper, and that's what made the goal disallowed. But I honestly, it should have stood. It was a great finish from Silva as well, to be fair.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, Neil Etheridge is a good goalkeeper, but I don't think there's going to be any goalkeeper in the world who can save a shot with that venom straight into the roof of the net from almost outside the box. I did see that was the case, or potentially the case, that Leroy Sane had impeded the goalkeeper's view from an offside position. But as far as I'm aware, that's not in the rule, because it's interfering with play. Now, if a goalkeeper can't see from that angle where the ball is, then he shouldn't be a goalkeeper. He should be on the blind registry, because it was very, very obvious that Sane did not interfere with the goal. So,
No, and then the next goal that obviously Cardiff conceded, a header from Raheem Sterling.
That was poor from Cardiff's point of view. That was definitely very poor.
The banter on Twitter after that goal went in was quite funny. Everyone was just like, imagine conceding a header from 5'6" or 5'7" Raheem Sterling. But he was so open in the box. It was really poor, like, defensive positioning from Cardiff's perspective.
I think if Sol Bamba started, who was out with a knock, which became a bit of a meme, I think if he was starting, then that goal doesn't go in. But oh well. Look, like I say, I can't complain. The second half was dead. To be honest with you, it wasn't the most exciting game of football in the second half. It
was dead. Yeah.
But
and I had the pleasure of where I was sat. Cardiff were attacking my end, so I all of the game was in the other end of the pitch. So it was really boring from my perspective in the second half.
But the biggest and most controversial moment of the game came when Man City were on the counter-attack after a mistake from, I want to say, Bruno Manga, but that might not be the case. And Joe Bennett was chasing Leroy Sane, who's a lot quicker than him. Sane's about to run into the box, and Bennett makes a split decision to tackle Sane and accidentally, in my opinion, goes a bit high, and Sane goes down. It's a yellow card in the referee's point of view, not a clear goal-scoring opportunity. In fact, as he was running away from goal. And then on further replay, it shows that Joe Bennett actually had his studs up, and very clearly Sane's leg or foot goes under his ankle, causing what we now know to be ligament damage, and he'll be out for 6 to 7 weeks. I am really disappointed with how this has been handled on social media. I'm being really careful with my words, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, because you have received quite a fair bit of slack on Twitter in the last couple of days, but from someone who has not voiced their opinion on the matter so far, I think it could have definitely passed as a red card challenge upon replay. I don't think Joe Bennett meant it at all. I don't think it. And the criticisms that Cardiff have had thrown their way of them playing a rugby game, so to speak, I think they're quite unfair, because other than that, and maybe another tactical foul that Cardiff conceded, there weren't many harsh challenges that ruined like the Man City players. But for me, justice came to it at the end of the day. He did end up going off through a second yellow card, so I don't think many Man City players can complain that he was still on the field for the rest of the game. But it's a tough situation. It was by far a terrible challenge on Leroy Sane. I mean, the pictures speak for themselves, but hey ho, it's football at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, the referee definitely deserved to hang his head in shame after it. It was a red card, and that's the other thing. I have received quite my fair bit of abuse this week, and you know what? Sure, that's what happens. For voicing my opinion on this, and I never once said that it wasn't a red card decision. It absolutely was. It should have been. The fact that the linesman or the referee didn't see that is very disappointing. But there are some genuine things that need to be pointed out here. A player puts in a bad tackle, right? You don't then go and attack his children, because that's what's happened, right? Joe Bennett posted a picture with his kids on Instagram. This was a while ago now, and Man City fans... Well, actually, am I generalising a bit too much? I'm going to say they're Man City fans. Some of them might not be. Have gone onto his Instagram, seen the picture with his kids, and sent abuse that way. What kind of mongoloid thinks that that's a good thing to do? I don't understand these people's thinking, and probably is my own naiveness. But why, in a professional sense, because football is football, bad tackles go in every single week, and in every division as well. So why do you think that this particular moment, in this time, Joe Bennett deserved that kind of abuse? Because, you know, he doesn't. He clearly tried to trip Sané, and if he had tripped him, and Sané was fine and carried on, played 90 minutes, then we wouldn't be seeing this, would we?
No.
So,
no, quite frankly.
Either way, I was really, really curious to find out what you guys had to say about this. So we put out a call on Facebook and Twitter to get your opinion for this show. And can I just say, I think we've probably had near 100 responses. So it's been very, very interesting. A lot from Facebook, actually. Twitter's usually where it's at, to be honest, but Facebook today came up trumps. I will share with you this one thing, though, that I tweeted. Some people really need to calm down, re the Bennett tackle. Bad tackles happen every week. Are you going to react like that every time someone puts in a tackle? Someone who I've written their name down, but I'm not actually going to name them, who has a much bigger following than I do, a Man City fan, said, who followed me and I followed him, said, "Ha ha 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 ha, not even worth debating you, you're obviously trolling, my time is precious, on mute you go." Now, first of all, how fragile is your dar? Almost as fragile as Sane's ankle. Oh, was that an edgy joke? But also, you tweeted me. You say your time is precious. You tweeted me. Sure, whatever, mate. It was that amused me. Out of all the abuse I got, that was my favourite. So congratulations, you get an IOTP award for favourite bit of abuse. So Ross, have you got anything to say on this before I go into read other people's comments?
I don't want to tread in hot water, so I'm just gonna reiterate what I've said. It was a red card. It was a referee's mistake, but Joe Bennett shouldn't deserve half the abuse he's been getting.
Well, obviously, I mean that would be. Slightly...
But I tell you, who does deserve all the abuse that they've been getting is West Ham's Arthur Masuaku. How's that for a segue?
Oh, that's beautiful. But I still haven't read out other people's comments. We'll get onto that. In fact, you go for it. I'll give you the floor.
Okay, so basically, for those of you who somehow don't know, Arthur Masuaku, the French left-back for West Ham, has received, I believe, a 6-match ban for spitting on former Man United starlet Nick Powell. And good, because there's no place for that in the game.
Has he actually received it now? Is that being confirmed?
I believe so. I think that was the consensus. Rumours yesterday were stating that was the case, and I'd be surprised if it's not.
Right, because Salsai, something like that, who spat on Robbie Wilmot of Newport last week, besides plays for Leeds, got a 6-match ban, and absolutely this ban should be matched. There's precedence for it, so go for it. There's no place for it in the game. It's a disgusting act. I don't know why, of all the things you could do or say, that's the one thing you decide to do, just because Nick Powell absolutely bossed that game. I thought he had a quality performance. Definitely would welcome him at Cardiff. So back to the Bennett tackle. Here's a few things that I'm sure we can touch on. Lee Bickerton on Facebook says, football has gone soft. There was so much exaggeration in football, and the diving is unreal. That's why referees find it so hard to distinguish whether it's real or not. I've paraphrased a bit then, but I think he's actually got a point. I think he's genuinely got a point. Because if players didn't go throwing themselves around so much, then we would be able to tell who's genuinely hurt. I'll be honest, in the moment, I thought Sane was milking it a little bit. It wasn't until I saw the replay.
Oh no, so did I completely,
time.
Because we saw Ilkay Gundogan go down that ultimately led to the Kevin De Bruyne free kick, and he got up and finished the game absolutely fine, and he was down for like 4 or 5 minutes. So
bear in mind, Sane played till half time as well.
Yeah. Credit to Sane for playing on. I didn't even know he was injured. I thought when they made the substitution for Aguero to come on at half time, I was just like, okay, Aguero's going to come on. I didn't realise the extent of the injury, so yeah.
Okay, so Carl Swales on Facebook as well says he should be made an example of. Joe Bennett, this is obviously, and be given an extended ban. Tackles like this have no place in football. No, it is my reaction to that.
Tackles like that, define what you mean by tackles like that. If we're talking about leg breaking challenges, then yeah, I'd agree with him in that respect. But challenges in terms of like accidental challenges that injure players and tactical fouls and stuff like that, it's just been a part of the game. Go back to the early noughties, late 90s, and when you were watching the likes of Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira play, and even Vinnie Jones, if you want to throw that name in there.
The crazy gang, yeah.
Football is a contact sport, believe it or not, and it's always been a contact sport. Hard-hitting challenges are part of the game, and yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I mean, I find it hard to disagree with you, Ross, as usual. But no, I genuinely think that it's a really stupid comment. I'm sorry, but if Cardiff players were told to go in and injure as many players as possible, like some people are accusing, I'm not saying this person did that, accused that, but that's what some people have genuinely said, then there would be more than one injury. I assure you of that. There are tackles in football right? And as Ross rightly said, it's a contact sport, believe it or not. The problem comes, especially when you've got these rules of like retroactive bans. Now that actually can't happen with Joe Bennett because the referee saw the incident, gave him a yellow card. Therefore, that ban can't be overturned. Although he obviously will have one because he got a second yellow later on in the game. If every tackle was cited, shall we say, then I think we'd be having 4 or 5 players banned every match.
Interesting statistic that I just found in terms of the number of fouls. Cardiff had 14. Manchester City, take a guess.
17.
12. So not far off.
Okay.
So
wow.
it was they were fouls either way. It's just some challenges were unlucky from Cardiff's point of view. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just
David Conway. Yeah, David Conway also on Facebook says he went for the ball and got his leg. He's come out and said sorry, leave him alone. That's the most sensible thing I've heard all day. Dave, quality, mate.
Nailed on the head there, to be fair.
Yeah, he said it. What we're taking 10 minutes to say, he said in 10 words. Couple things from Twitter here. Tom Prosser at TomProsser08 said it's a red card, but there has been a massive overreaction. There's always has been and always will be mistimed tackles in the game. I'm sure there was no intent from Bennett's point of view. That's football at the end of the day. Recent spitting incidents have gotten not got as much attention. And again, I think nailed on the head.
That's nailed on the head, yeah. Fair play.
So big up Tom Prosser, very good guy. And Dan Moffat, regular contributor at Don Moffat 98, says the outpour of abuse on Twitter to Joe has been awful. Of course, it was an awful challenge, but you can't agree with anyone who didn't intend serious harm. It's absurd. Part and parcel of football, I'm afraid. No mouth emoji. I think that no mouth emoji speaks volumes. Someone else as well, Henry McQuinty. Haven't heard you contribute before, so thank you for this. It says VAR was needed in this incident. Now, this wasn't the elected game for this round to use VAR. That was Liverpool's match against West Brom. It was used quite a lot in that game, arguably too much. But if that was used, if VAR was used in this game, don't you think that it would be a much more interesting match? It's certainly Cardiff would struggle more because we'd be an extra man down, an extra goal down for sure.
It's catch-22 really, because if, like you said, VAR was introduced in the Man City game, then it would have by far not gone in favour of Cardiff City. That Bernardo Silva goal would have stood, and there would have been 10 men on the field for Cardiff. So they've either got it was the West Brom Liverpool game sort of a trial in the FA Cup, or did they just randomly designate one game to give VAR to?
It's one game per round.
Well, that's stupid then. You either do it for all the games or none at all.
True, but then you could also argue that, that would take too much time. We still don't know really where or when. Well, actually, they say it's an industrial park in London. That's where the VAR decisions are being made from. I don't think you could do that for every single person. Or every single game.
Well, then they need to sort the system out then, because it's been working in the Carabao Cup, so why can't it work in the FA Cup?
Yeah, definitely. It is a bit unfair. And the final comment I will put out to you for this is from Nye Brown on Facebook. He says, Sane is a pussy and will play in the next match. Also, say hi to Liam for me. I will say hi to Liam for you, Nye. That's my alarm going off. I apologise for that. I will say hi to Liam for you. He will be back very soon, but he's off to Sweden next week for work experience. I'm very jealous. So he'll be back very, very soon. Right, we'll quickly run through the fifth round draw, and then we'll get on to what everyone wants to talk about. It is the transfer rumours and confirmed deals. So quickly, the fifth round draw is Sheffield Wednesday versus Notts County or Swansea, West Brom versus Southampton, Chelsea versus Hull City, Leicester City versus Sheffield United, Huddersfield versus Birmingham or Manchester United.
Huddersfield or Birmingham versus Manchester United.
That's what I meant to say. I misread that. Millwall or Rochdale versus Tottenham or Newport. Brighton versus Coventry, and Wigan versus Manchester City. So, we'll get on to one transfer we've already mentioned, in fact, from the Manchester United game. Making his debut this week, who might I be talking about, Ross?
The new United number 7, thankfully. Finally, a name worthy of wearing the number 7 shirt, may I add, in Alexis Sanchez. Swap deal with him at Mkhitaryan, even though people would have you believe that his wages are going to cost 59 or so million pounds. I'm just plucking figures out the air. But yeah, to get a Sanchez on a swap deal with Mkhitaryan is, for my eyes, wages aside, fantastic business on United's behalf, and I may be biased in saying that, but to offload one of your most inconsistent players and one of the most frustrating players, because on his day, Mkhitaryan is one of the best creative midfielders in the league, and if Arsenal are getting the same Mkhitaryan that helped United lift the Europa League, then they're going to do wonders, especially if another player who we'll discuss in a bit comes to Arsenal. But Sanchez for me is just what United have been missing in the final third. We have quality players behind the striker, but albeit none of them are that class. If you look at the top sides in the Premier League at the moment, they've each got a fantastic world-class player behind the striker. At the moment, City have got De Bruyne, despite him playing in midfield, is definitely more of a free role. Chelsea have got Eden Hazard, Liverpool have got Mo Salah and Mane, and then Spurs have got Christian Eriksen. So it's finally good to see United having a world-class winger again, and finally someone worthy enough to fill that number 7 shirt.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the biggest deal of the window without a doubt, even though there are maybe deals that will cost more. This is a straight swap, and there aren't many straight swaps that happen anymore. It used to happen a lot more in football way back when, before we were born, or even you were born, Ross. I know that you're a lot older than me. But yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a weird one that was teased for weeks and weeks and weeks, even before the transfer window even opened. The one thing I want to know, though, is who got the better end of the deal?
Obviously United. I mean, the two players are the same age. They're both 29 years of age. And if you look at, it's not even a move. Like, if you think, like, if it was to swap like Martial for Sanchez, I would say Arsenal would get the better end of the deal, because obviously Martial's only 22 years of age. He's got the world in front of him and stuff like that. But if you look at a straight swap in like the most basic of ways, in terms of who's getting the best player, it's got to be United, because Sanchez is one of the best players in the Premier League.
But Sanchez was one away, and he only had 6 months left on his contract. You know, if Mkhitaryan can be playing every week the way that he showed glimpses of at United, would you reconsider?
Maybe, but it depends, because we can speak in retrospect all the time, but I can only call it the way that I've seen so far this season, in that Mkhitaryan has been frustrating for fans to watch, and Sanchez has shown his class, and he showed his class against Yeovil. He brought an extra drive in the final third that United have been lacking. I mean, we haven't got many wingers, or we haven't got any wingers, in fact, who can pass a ball quite like Alexis Sanchez. He was making some quality cross-field balls in the game on Friday night, and I think he will truly be the difference between Lukaku scoring 15 goals this season and Lukaku scoring 25, because Lord knows what the signing of Sanchez is going to do for Lukaku's confidence and his ability to score goals.
Yeah, well, look, I agree with you. I mean, he's absolutely definitely a better player than Mkhitaryan is, and even on his day, Mkhitaryan can't live up to the Sanchez hype. A little
But
bit of
one thing I do want to say before we do move on or discuss any more other points in terms of the wages. The rumoured wages are £400,000 a month. I mean, football's a game where you have to fork out these days to get a quality player, and the fact that United have got him on a free or on a swap deal with Mkhitaryan, it just makes it better, because even though his wage, he's going to be the highest paid player in the Premier League, he's still equal on wages to Ezekiel Lavezzi, who's in the Chinese league at the moment, and for a club who's won the title of the richest club in the world for the second year running, United have got the money to spend, so why not?
Yeah, and even though those are the rumoured figures, United's official stance is still that he's on 300 grand a week, which is the same as Paul Pogba. So, we'll see how that materialises. A little bit of breaking transfer news, or at least breaking for whilst we're on air. You'll probably know this well in advance before this goes out, that Swansea's Rocky Mensah has actually joined Sevilla on loan just 6 months after joining for £11 million. I'm not going to throw any statistics your way because we didn't plan for that, and I'm not going to ask Ross for too much comment if you don't want to, because I've thrown that on you a little bit. But that was rumoured, and it was kind of also put to bed. They were like, oh no, that's not going to happen, and then it has. I wonder if he's jumping ship before they've hit the iceberg.
Well, I mean, at the beginning of the season, everyone looked at the Rocky Mesa transfer and think, blimey, Swansea are getting a really good deal and a really good player out of that, and I'm not surprised that he's jumping ship now, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. He's a very good player. And I know Guillaume Balaguer from Sky Sports, when he joined, was singing his prayers and saying, "Look, Swansea have got a great player. Remember the Michu deal? Like it's like on par with that, and just clearly hasn't materialised." Right, here's a very, very big one. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I bet not many people can say that 5 times fast, especially with a North London accent. Why North London? Because obviously he is on his way to Arsenal. This one has been huge. This one's been massive. £60 million is the rumoured fee, by far the biggest that's going to be in this transfer window. Although almost beaten by Man City today.
We're forgetting the Coutinho deal.
Oh, yes, I am. Oh, gosh.
We'll discard the Coutinho deal, because I'm fairly sure he's only made like one appearance for Barcelona since the deal. So anyway, skirting over that.
Skirt. So not by far the biggest deal that's happening this month, but
in the Premier League. We'll say in the Premier League.
Coming into the Premier League. So Ross, they've been after this guy for probably 3 years, and we said this about Lacazette as well, who hasn't really hit the ground running. Do you think the both of them together are going to be the saviour for Arsenal, or is it maybe a bit too much of the same in the same position?
For me, it honestly depends on how Wenger's going to play them, because I have no faith that Wenger's going to play them in a system that's going to suit them best. I think the best way that Wenger can get the best out of a partnership between Aubameyang and Lacazette is by doing exactly that. Play 2 up front with Ozil behind them. It doesn't change the tactics in any way at all. The only thing, because obviously Arsene is implementing a 3 at the back formation at the moment, and he has done throughout this season and last season. Instead of having maybe Sanchez as another winger or sort of another forward, just have Lacazette and Aubameyang up front together. I mean, that's like one of the best striking partnerships in the league. Come on now.
No, absolutely. And my only worry is that that maybe one of them will have to play on the wing. And how many times have we seen Arsene Wenger have a great player and then put him out on the wing? But maybe we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Maybe he's going to change the formation a little bit. Arsenal have really not been good this season. I know that's not exactly a hot take. but perhaps we're going to see a sense of a bit like what Liverpool have done with Van Dijk, throwing money at a problem and thinking that something will stick. And Van Dijk has not fixed all of Liverpool's problems. Who is another one who I forgot? It moved in the January transfer window, and maybe Aubameyang isn't going to fix all of Arsenal's problems. Maybe they're a bit more deep rooted than just a striker, but he's a good player.
It's not a player they exactly need. They need a Sanchez replacement, and is Aubameyang a Sanchez replacement? Would you say that?
They're different players. I think
in my opinion,
more of a striker.
I mean, the acquisition of Mkhitaryan has sort of cemented, like, okay, this is the player that's going to this is the player that's going to replace Sanchez. And surely, I mean, we're forgetting about Mkhitaryan. Like, where's he going to play into the fold? If you got Ozil, Mkhitaryan, Lacazette, and Aubameyang, how are they going to fit into a team together?
I think we're talking more Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Mickey all up front, with Ozil kind of behind them, spraying the balls wherever he needs to put them. But what worries me is that is a quality front four. Like, there's no doubt about that. Probably one of the best in the Premier League. And how? But then who's supporting them? Are Xhaka and Ramsey going to support that team? Probably not.
No. And
either way,
even the defence, they're in desperate need of a top quality centre back. I mean, Koscielny, he's been quality in recent years, but he hasn't been as dominant since Arsenal have implemented a back three, and Mustafi hasn't really lived up to expectations. He's been great, don't get me wrong. He's been one of the better of Arsenal centre-backs so far this season, but he hasn't lived up to expectations. So I think they're very top-heavy at the moment, very reminiscent of the Liverpool squad. So I don't know if signing attackers is going to necessarily fix all their problems, but I'm sure we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's. In fact, no, I'm not going to even bother saying what I was going to say. Let's move on. Still talking a bit about Arsenal, because Olivier Giroud looks to be off. He looks maybe to be the target man that Chelsea have been so fixated on getting this window. Antonio Conte likes to have a big striker off the bench as an option. He had Fernando Llorente at Juventus, so this is his after going through maybe 4 or 5 other targets, this is his decision to go for Olivier Giroud, and Arsene Wenger looks to be happy to offload him.
This is exactly what Arsenal shouldn't have done. Giroud on his day, he starts for the French national team, and he's a quality plan B for Arsenal. So if he's the striker that he's going to have to offload in to make way for Aubameyang, I think they're doing business totally wrong.
Yeah, £35 million is a lot of money though, and they didn't sign him for anywhere near that from Montpellier. I do think that they are probably left a bit lacking, because after that, I mean, you got Danny Welbeck, and I don't think Danny Welbeck is exactly going to be living up to even Giroud, never mind Aubameyang. So, we'll see.
It's very interesting, or like puzzling, to see why Chelsea need to sign another striker, because by the names that they've been linked with in the window, they're clearly after a big number 9. So clearly they haven't got much faith in Morata, which is quite worrying from their perspective, given that they spent a lot of money on him in the summer and he hasn't seemingly lived up to his expectations, to the point where they're already looking at other strikers, even though they have Michy Batshuayi in the fold. They have all.
Well, he's actually off to Borussia Dortmund now. That looks like that's going to definitely happen on loan until the end of the season, which is a good move for him ahead of the World Cup. And he probably wouldn't get any game time whatsoever if Giroud was an option. But I mean, is Giroud really a target man? I mean, he's not massively tall, but he knows how to throw his hair about a bit. If that's what you want to. That's how you want to put it.
If Conte wants a player who's going to get in the box, maybe score ahead, be like a plan B type player, and scored the odd goal with his feet, then they're getting a great player in Giroud, and I was a big advocate for him to move to Everton in the summer, because I do rate Giroud, but I don't think he is an Arsenal quality player, and I don't think he's a Chelsea quality player as well. So this Chelsea's business in the January transfer window has really puzzled me.
Well, their targets have ranged from Peter Crouch and Ashley Barnes to Edin Dzeko and Olivier Giroud. I wonder what Antonio Conte's thinking is, or whether he's thinking at all at this point. Because we all know how vocal he's been on the fact that he doesn't choose the players that Chelsea sign. Yeah. He's got a say, let's say, but he by no means has the final word, which is for me a really stupid thing. It was the reason he left Juventus, and it was the reason he left Bari, and also the reason he left club management altogether and went to Italy. He really, really hates not having control.
It just makes you think
over transfers.
It just makes you think how long, like towards the end of his tether, he is with Chelsea, because there have been rumours in like the summer and earlier on in the season that he was interested in a move away, and how are Chelsea trying to force him out, or are they trying to keep hold of him? They need to back up their ideas and sort of establish where they stand with Conte, because if they want a manager of his quality at the club, and he is absolute quality, he's one of the best managers in the world, they need to push the boat out and try to make him stay.
Let's put it this way, I mean, Conte is probably one of the best managers in the world. After what he did, he turned that Chelsea team around, made them unplayable, and made five at the back a very popular choice amongst other clubs up and down the country. So hey, let's let's give him a little bit more of a chance, shall we, Chelsea? I'm talking directly
Please
to Roman Abramovich now,
because I want Conte to stay in the Premier League. Despite his comments he made against Jose Mourinho, I still rate him as a manager.
That's partially why I like him, because anyone who's got the balls to beef Jose Mourinho is got a real real set on him, should we say?
Anyway, should we move on from Chelsea?
We should, but stay in the Premier League, because Manchester City have decided to go on a bit of a madness. We'll talk about the defensive reinforcement first. Ross, do you know how to say this lad's name?
Laporte.
I'm talking about his first name.
Let me just have a look now. No.
I'm gonna guess it's Aymeric.
I think I think
that's right.
That was quite close. Hang on.
I'm gonna say Aymeric Laporte, a player from Athletic Bilbao, or Athletic Club as they like to be called. A very, very good defender. A very good centre back. He's been on the radar of a lot of big clubs since he was about 16 was when he was first kind of touted to be good. Made his stamp on the first team when he was 19, I believe. He's got good pedigree.
He was a popular player on FIFA career mode back in the day.
Oh, shout out, yeah. But I think the biggest shock of this good stat coming out, is that he is now the most expensive player ever to not have an international cap.
Really? He hasn't made a cap for France yet?
No, which is great. I think that's a quality stat, personally. He's from the Basque region, so if you don't know, in Spain, up in the kind of the north of Spain, there's a little region called the Basque region, and they kind of, I guess you could say, identify as both Spanish and French. They kind of speak a mixture of both. And that's what Athletic Club is kind of known for, is that they only have players from the Basque region. Their academy is so good. So their team is full of Spanish and French players. And he is also, there's plenty of other famous ones, talking about Antoine Griezmann. He's from the Basque region, as is Adjuriz. So, he's leaving essentially his home club, should we say, and they've been desperate to keep hold of him for so long, and he's finally going to Man City. But do you see him playing that often?
Depends on the kind of system they're going to use. To me, this signing works in a three at the back, because I think Laporte would be a great left-sided centre-back or a central-sided centre-back. But it honestly depends, because Man City did need a top-quality centre-back, but I'm not sure if they've got the world-class centre-back they need in Laporte. Because remember, before they signed Nicolas Otamendi from Valencia, he was one of the best centre-backs in La Liga. And he came, and in his first season, he didn't live up to expectations. And for me, Laporte, while he is a quality defender, he hasn't showed the glimpses that he did a couple of years ago. So, for me, it is a really good signing. Don't get me wrong; they are getting a good player out of it. But I just don't know. I don't know how it's going to work unless they use him as a company replacement. But what does it mean for John Stones even?
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to bring up, was has Pep lost patience with John Stones? Because they almost need him because he's English, and Kyle Walker as well, because you need to have a certain number of players in your team from or who are considered homegrown. And shall we say that Man City probably don't have the strongest English contingent in their squad, so if they were to get rid of John Stones, and I'm not suggesting that that's the rumour, that it isn't, but if they were to drop him to the bench and not play him, and he'll want to leave because he is a good enough player to play in the Premier League, where do they go from here? Like, do they have to start bringing players like Phil Foden through? I mean, he's only 17. He's played really well, but he's not old enough yet, I would say,
to play
first team
Laporte
football.
at left back in the meantime, or are they going to?
What
exactly.
Fabian Delph?
Obviously, Mendy's out injured with quite a long-term injury, but still, I mean, they need reinforcement in that position. So, hey ho.
Bit more of breaking transfer news. Cardiff have made a fourth bid for Gary Medine, second of the day. It's a bit mad. Who knows? Maybe Chelsea could look at him as a target man. He's a bit tall. Here's a really good one. I think Javi Gracia, who is Watford's brand new manager after they canned Marco Silva, I think that he deserves Manager of the Month after securing Gerard Deulofeu on loan from Barcelona until the end of the season, and he hasn't even played a game yet.
Funnily enough,
so
fun stat for you.
Is
it Gracia or Garcia? It's Gracia, isn't it? Yeah, Gracia. Sorry,
it's Gracia. Yeah,
bit of dyslexia coming in there, but he's looking to be the first ever Watford manager in the Premier League to start his managerial career with a win. No Watford manager in the Premier League era has started their career with a win for Watford. So yeah.
I remember people saying that when Marco Silva joined, and I mean he's the best manager they've had ever. I would say, certainly in the Premier League. I mean, look, he's a very, very good player, and there was a reason Barcelona wanted him. I don't know why they decided to bring him back when they did, because they knew that Ousmane Dembele was going to come, and so was Coutinho. That looked to have already been done before the January window opened, or even the summer window closed. In fact, so what on earth made Barcelona think that Gerard Deulofeu was gonna make a difference in that team?
I'm not too sure. I mean, if they weren't convinced by his spell at Everton, then But no, it seems to be a trend of Deulofeu getting a glimpse into the Barcelona squad, and then Barcelona just turn around and being like, "Nah, you can go to a mid-table Premier League club, mate."
I'm sure that's the third time he's left Barcelona now.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Sure
I wouldn't be surprised.
So,
I think.
Well, either way, look, I think that's a quality signing.
Twice at this point, or something like that. Or did he just have a really lengthy spell at the club? I'm not too sure.
Well, either way, come the end of the season, he'll probably have a madness, and Barcelona will recall him, and then he'll be at Southampton in 12 months' time.
Rinse and repeat.
So. Yeah. Well, we're all about the break-in transfer news on the Off the Post podcast, apparently, because something that's just popped up on my Twitter, this is from the Mail, so take it with a pinch of salt if you want to, but apparently Manchester City have just made a £50 million bid for Riyad Mahrez.
Beautiful stuff.
And that's all to do with
Is
Joe
it
Bennett's
really?
tackle.
Oh my lord!
It seems to be like
It's just throwing money at it. It's not.
Oh.
People used to have emergency loans back in the day, but now I just chuck 50 mil at Mara, isn't it? Maybe this is them settling after losing out on Alexis Sanchez. Who knows?
It's funny to me because they're like, oh, one of our better players is out for 2 months. Another 50 million.
It's really disappointing because in a fully fit Man City squad, he's not getting ahead of Sterling or Sane or even Bernardo Silva for that matter. So it's just a pointless transfer. It really is.
I mean, I'll every time someone says about because remember Pep Guardiola a couple of days ago said that Man City couldn't afford to be splashing out the kind of wages that some people want. I think that was kind of indirect reference to Sanchez.
They can though, can't
then
they?
They go and
he's totally making that up. They
of course they can.
They can afford his wages.
There's a great stat that came out when Sterling joined to Man City, and at the time that seemed like a lot of money. Because he joined for 50 million as well, and Man City seem to be 50 million merchants at the moment. Everyone's moving there for 50 million. If their owner, I forget his name, is it Sheikh?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Mansour, I want to say, possibly. I don't want to double down on that, but if he was to wake up at 9 a.m. in the morning, then by midday he would have made £50 million from his oil business. So I don't think he's going to care too much.
Not. But does that mean when he wakes up at 9 a.m. by midday he could afford Alexis Sanchez's wages for a year? Yeah, there you go.
If you want to put it that way. Or Daniel Sturridge. How about that for a segue? Just shouting his name. Daniel Sturridge has decided that he has had enough at Liverpool and has joined West Brom on loan. This is in an attempt to make it to the World Cup squad.
Is it a loan deal?
2018 for England.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, I think it's an absolutely quality signing for West Brom.
Well, if he's hungry for it and can keep his quaver legs.
Well, we're talking about a player who
go for
4 years ago became the player for Liverpool who got to 20 goals in the league in the quickest amount of time, tied with Fernando Torres, 27 games, might I add. But on his day, Daniel Sturridge is one of the most clinical strikers in the league, and West Brom getting him on a loan deal is great business, quite frankly.
Yeah, definitely. There isn't too much to say on that, and we do need to wrap the show up quite quickly. So we'll quickly mention congrats to Tim Cahill
and
for
also,
making a return to Millwall. That was an interesting one.
Moura looks to be set on a £25 million deal away from PSG to Spurs. That looks like a quality signing. Mm-hmm.
That looks to be a good one. Yeah, we'll definitely get a show out to you next week. We'll talk about
it is deadline day tomorrow.
That do eventually go through. We're so excited. Quickly, the Benevento watch. I'm thinking maybe we should scrap this now, but I'm doing it anyway just for the banter. They lost 3-0 to Torino. They started winning again, so it's not as fun. It's not as good of a meme. And finally, the football funny. We always like to end the show on a little bit of a more light-hearted note. This one comes from the brilliant lower leagues of football, as it tends to, and that is Crew Alexandria deciding to tweet the other day, fancy some transfer news this lunchtime, and setting up a poll with 3 answers. Go on then, why not? OMG, yes, get in, and nah, you're alright. Well, nah, you're alright won with 53% of the vote, but they still decided to announce the signing anyway. So they don't even really care that much about the polls. So that's the end of this episode of the In Off the Purse podcast. Apologies, it is maybe a little rushed, but we've got things to do. We're still It's very busy. But we're going to try and get an episode out every single week. Follow myself on Twitter,
follow me
at DanBevJourno.
@Ardos_. And remember, we will be setting another tweet out either later today or tomorrow, reminding you that we will be relaunching the blog, so keep an eye out for that.
Absolutely, we're very excited about starting that up. So, well,
Bye-bye.
until next time, ta-ra.